So talk to me.
All right.
You were mentioning when we were downwinding.
Yes. Yesterday, epic run. Perfect conditions to start. It was like so for me and Brady, it was a 16-ish mile run.
16?
16.
How far is it from the wedge to the pier? You went from the wedge or from Blackie's?
Blackie's.
So it's like, okay.
So Blackie's to pier is about 7 miles.
Yeah.
And then pier to seal is 9 or 10, depending on like your course and all that.
Yeah.
So,
sweet.
Yeah, but perfect run to start. Super groomed, like no groundswell, just pure wind swell.
Yeah.
Nuking wind that had been blown for a little while, slightly offshore.
I was there.
Not at the start. You were
not
at the
the
pier.
start. Okay,
It was different. So at the start, because then the wind shifted towards Huntington, it shifted more on shore. And it was unreal. And then at the end, it got just gnarly because the way the coastline goes, it scoops in. And so all of the wind swell blows in and then it just has to come back out some way. And so you get a lot of backwash and like, instead of it just being all downwind bumps going that way, you get like crossed up, gnarly waves. And at the beginning, I would say it was like, 2 to 5 foot wind swell, wind bumps. And at the end, I mean, you were there. At the end, it was overhead.
It was huge.
Overhead. I mean, on foil, overhead wind bumps that even Brady Hurley, who is a charger, was like, I was kicking out. I had no interest in dropping in on these waves.
It was really, really big.
It was huge. So
it's hard to articulate to people that weren't there when you're like, it was like 8 or 10 feet.
Yeah,
you're like, okay, yeah,
right.
sure.
But it is in the troughs.
Yeah.
When I'm on foil on an 800 centimeter mast on foil, I'm obviously not the full mast depth deep.
Yeah.
But when I'm on foil and I can look up and see, like I'm looking up at a wave.
Yeah.
That's a freaking big wave.
Oh, it was really fun to drop into some of them.
It was
like when you could just get rocketed out.
Yeah.
It was great.
And so, yeah, I'm on the progression 200, which is not meant to go fast. And I'm dropping in I think I stopped dropping in when they got a little bit overhead.
Right.
Because it was just too much. And so I've got my paddle in my hand and, my big board and I feel like I'm going 20 miles an hour or faster.
But you're not because you're on a really thick foil. You choose to be on a thicker foil instead of like a downwind foil. That's kind of what you're driving at.
That's what we're going towards, yeah. But just flying down those waves, I mean, I probably was going faster than that foil was supposed to go because it felt like it was just going to fly out.
You would never think to tow the progression 200 at 20 plus miles an hour.
Overhead waves.
Or overhead waves.
Zero. I would
overhead,
never want to do that.
like unbroken groundswell.
I would never want to do that. That sounds miserable. But downwinding, it was fun and it worked out. But that's exactly where the conversation went at the end of the run. We were all talking about the gear we used and who had success, who had failure. And then we started talking about like the local crew and who's been having success and who's been having failure and what has kind of been the recurring theme for failures. And honestly, I think the biggest like snake oil, like slick salesman move that's going on right now is the downwind specific foil.
For beginners.
Because
I think there are
not just beginners.
I think there are good foilers that can downwind, and the downwind specific foil makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm not saying that. I'm not
you loved the AFS, the Pure 1100 on a downwind.
Yeah, it was great. It worked great.
Right.
The AFS 1100 is a little different in that it has pretty good low end for how big of a foil it is.
Especially because it's big.
And that day that we used it was like 1 foot. Like I didn't have any worry about like breaching and like getting like jumping over bumps and all that. It was like, that was a pretty mellow day. But
it was very small.
It was very small, yeah. Like I couldn't paddle up at first. It was like that small. But and I'm not saying that there isn't a place for these high performance downwind foils.
Right.
Like the new Armstrong specific race foils and the Axis, I think it's the Pro Art series.
The Art Pro, yeah.
But I think, like I said, the biggest like salesman thing going on is telling like everybody, If you want to
learn how to downwind.
If you want to downwind, you need ultra high aspect. You need this is the foil. And the problem is you have very good foilers who have been trying to downwind for a long time who are telling you like, oh, I love this foil for downwinding.
It's the cheat code.
Yeah, no shit you love it because you're good at downwinding, right? And and the reason why this I think is such a big thing for me is because I learned how to downwind coming from prone. I'll be the first to admit I said prone or die.
But you are a bad example because you learned how to downwind and cracked open the code on an Axis Art 1099. That was the foil where you were like, this thing is sick, best downwind foil ever.
I was actually downwinding on the HPS before.
Sure.
And I was able to downwind
but
successfully.
Once you used the 1099, you were like way better.
But so the art is actually a good example of a decent like all around foil. It's the Art Pro. That's like that 13
it's harder to
AR,
do.
right?
Yeah.
But the arts are a little bit lower. I think the art's only like 10 or 11. But yeah, like I was talking to Ryan about it and he fully agreed. If you're learning to downwind, and even if you're not learning, if you're just a regular downwinder, you don't need this high aspect, super fast, like crazy AR
especially
foil.
in Orange County.
Anywhere.
So what if the conditions are good? Would you have gone yesterday when it was just kind of like unhinged, right? Yeah. Would you have
Towards
gone...
Towards the end, yeah.
Yeah. Would you have gone with a smaller progression or would you have gone with a high performance downwind foil?
Honestly...
When the conditions are immaculate, like if you're in Maliko.
Yeah, no, honestly, yesterday, the smallest I would have wanted to go was the Progression 170.
Because you need to get out of the way.
Because I really enjoyed the safety net of the low stall speed. And there was a lot of times
this was really jumbled up.
There was a lot of times where I really needed it. Like I would, especially towards the end where things got jumbled up. That lower stall speed allows you to just like kick out and know that you can glide to a bump, or if you're not able to make that glide clean, you're gonna be able to pump. You're gonna be able to pump that foil. And I think, and like especially in jumbled up days where you have waves that cross over, and someone was talking about this in the chat the other day, that you find yourself going from one bump to another bump still on one wave, right? And then if you get that second of like, you get caught in the middle of them, you lose your speed and drop.
That was almost exact. That's what was, I think yeah.
Right, so having that lower stall speed totally lets you manage that adjustment better. But the biggest thing that Ryan and I were talking about with not using these crazy span foils is having something that you can surf allows you to make adjustments so much easier.
Right.
Like
quick adjustments. Like,
yeah,
like I'm on the wrong line. Let me just like,
course corrections, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't have to worry about your wingtip completely coming out when it's like, you know, if you're going through a peak, right? And then your foil pops out the back of the one wave, right?
So what's the time and the place for those things? I mean, I would think that if you're on a cruisy, great conditions run and you already know how to downwind, then those foils, I mean, obviously people are just loving them for a reason.
I honestly think the only time to use one of those super drawn out wigs, and I love that you're laughing already. The only time to use it is if you're competing. And even then, I've done enough longer downwind runs now with other very good downwinders who I beat. And we're not like racing, but I think internally, these guys, we're always racing. Like I know for me personally, when I go out, I'm always racing everybody I'm out there with.
Yeah, I can't walk to the friggin' ocean with you.
I'm like running past you. Let's go, right? I'm gonna win. The race is on. But yeah, no, I think we're all racing, and I think I've always been the first to finish for a while now. Even using,
it's one of the only places it's good to be the first to finish.
I'm the first there too. Sorry, babe. But no, I think I don't think the foil speed. This is another topic that we're having. Is I don't think the foil speed matters nearly as much as everyone makes it out to be. Because if the slower foil will get you up on foil faster,
Yeah.
and if you fall,
It's safety.
get you back up
Yeah.
faster. I think that's a really
You can make up more time by being
Absolute-
able to get back on foil faster,
Yeah.
rather than coming off of foil. Maybe the wind's dropped a little bit and you can't get back on.
right. Absolutely. So that's my take is
Well, wait, before
Yeah.
you share your full take, Mark Ribkoff just called and said that he was riding
Right.
the code high aspect, the R series
A60R, yeah.
versus the S series.
Yeah.
And originally he would ride the S series and think that, he would always ride that. And then he moved over to the R, and he says the magic of that R series is not the fact that it's faster.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that for some reason it translates what you feel like is speed. It's actually translating into like lift, and it has a pretty good low end for its wingspan. And he's saying that somehow the way the foil maneuvers through the water makes you feel like you're going so much faster. Maybe it's the glide, that it doesn't slow down
Yeah.
from speed as much, so you can kind of just carry yourself through the flats a little bit better.
Yeah,
That's it.
I saw his post that he was talking about that, and I've ridden the 860R a couple times, and I agree. I think what he's feeling and what he's trying to say is the glide, like you're saying. I think that sensation of where he's just like, I don't know what this magic is, but it works. I think it's that glide.
So if you're on like a no pump challenge, maybe that's the time and the place for these like the R series or the Armstrong super HAs.
So the R series, I still isn't super HA. What's the aspect ratio on those on the R's?
Well, I'm supposed to know that.
I know.
I would have to look at it.
I think it's still 11 or less.
I think it's. I would argue that. I
Okay.
think it might be more, like 12
Should we
or
look it up?
13.
Right, we have computers.
All right, we're gonna clip the video. We're gonna look it up.
Oh, it's 13. It is 13.
Ha! I gotcha.
You got me.
It's 13. But what he was saying, he talked to the engineers, and they're saying that the R series is actually thicker than the S series. So those Code
Right.
S series are all for like, they're almost as fast as the R series for their size and all that
because
stuff.
the R is thicker.
Right. So the 860R versus the 850S might be a lot closer in speed than people would want to admit.
Right.
Where the 860R will hold glide and hold you on that sup in a downwind situation much longer than the 850R is going to do. But what happens is people go from an 860R, they go to a 1300. Right?
Right.
And so their low aspect 1300, they're trying to compare with a 1000 or 1100, and it's like a totally different size too. So I think that it kind of like can throw people for a loop. But what I've noticed is people that want to learn to downwind, Steven, or like us new guys, which I'm at the
Right.
same level as Steven, right?
That wasn't no.
Steven,
Yeah.
Steven's
Sorry,
got,
Steven.
Yeah, well, paddling up and some of that stuff. Steven and I start and finish our runs together a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So
when you paddle, when you don't cheat with the foil drive.
this is true.
Yeah.
You have more fun with the foil drive. Here, you heard it here first.
A lot less paddling.
Right. But, okay, my point is, he has the 1201. He's got those ultra high aspect
And
wings.
the 1300.
And he's got the 1300s, which is much more low aspect.
Right.
And he's realizing that he gets up on foil more and has more fun on the lower aspect foil
Right.
as he's dealing with conditions and all that stuff. I don't think it's going to be until he's more consistently successful as a downwinder every time he's acing runs or he's getting up in 2 or 3 strokes on these bigger foils, where he'll begin to start stepping it down and challenging himself. And I think
Yeah.
once he does, I think there's a payoff there. But I think what the point to this entire podcast is, if you're not where you want to be in downwinding and you're not consistently acing runs and you're not paddling up with ease, buying an ultra high aspect downwind specific foil is not going to help you.
Right. Please don't do that. Please don't think that, oh, I just need to get a bigger, thinner foil that can go faster and I don't know. I think
Until we sell it, then you can buy it.
until we're the only one to have it here at the shop, then then you need to buy two of like one of each size.
Right. That's fair.
No, I just think I think that having a foil that you trust, that you know how it works, that something that you can ride in the surf, that you can then, there's a lot of value in that transitioning into downwinding. It's a different feel than surf, but you're still surfing when you're downwinding. It still feels like it. And once you get more comfortable and you have more time on foil and you have more security from that lower stall speed, and you know that you can like carve out of a bad situation better. I think there's a place for those foils. And I think people should be looking more like almost like going back in time. Like everyone's trying to race forward to like the newest, thinnest, fastest. And I think you should just, if you're not like dialed, just stop and maybe think about like not the next thing, but like something that you already know or that's more stable that you know that you can, hammer away on.
That's a good take. What did you ride yesterday?
Progression 200.
With the progression mast.
With the progression mast, yeah. And I was very happy to have the progression mast.
How overfoiled were you at some point?
So overfoiled.
It was so hectic.
At the beginning, I was just cruising. Like, I barely had to pump. I was stoked. Brady was on the lift 120. I was on the progression 200. We were going like pretty much side by side, and just cruising. Like I wasn't having to like work at all. And what was the craziest part was as it got...
good point. You and Brady were side by side. You're on the progression 200. He's on the lift 120.
Right.
Some would say the lift 120 is faster than the progression 200, but you were just cruising next to each other the whole time.
Yeah, he didn't pass me, and we basically started together.
Yeah.
So like neither one of us were in race mode. Like we were just going and cruising and carving waves and having fun.
Yeah.
But the progression 200 was plenty fast.
That's cool.
But I think I ended up working a lot more at the end as the waves got bigger. Yeah. Because at 200, like when I would get to the top of an overhead bump and I was looking down it, just dropping in.
It took a lot to pump down the back and get into the trough where you could grab something else.
Well, on the ones that I decided like send it, it took a lot to like grip my toes into the board, right? And like the paddle, I'm like holding, the paddle was like making drag through the wind as I was racing down the face of these waves.
This is crazy.
And then...
Until the wind kicked up and it's like pulling you forward.
Right? But yeah, and like you said, it was a lot of work to kick out of those waves.
Yeah.
To then like recoup and get settled and find the next one that was going to take me and pray to God that it was smaller than the one I was just on because there were some scary waves.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
That's about all the time we have right now. Try to keep these short, make it easy for people to tune in.
Yeah, we already have our next topic ready, so it's coming.
And I'm unaware of what that topic is, so I'm excited to hear about it. All right.